Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today we're going to try to fix this TV here. So the problem with it is it's got a dodgy HDMI port, so if I was to go over to HDMI 2, number 1 works perfectly, but number 2, I've got the Xbox plugged in there at the moment and nothing comes up. But then if you just wiggle the lead at the back, then it will start working. So check this out. So if I go to here, it's the white one here, if I give it a bit of a wiggle, you will see it comes on. And it will do this every single time, but it's definitely getting worse. So a few months ago it was only kind of maybe 1 in every 4 or 5 times you have to do it. Now you have to do it every single time. When it's working, it's fine. So now that will stay good. You could be on that Xbox now for the next 3 or 4 hours and it will be absolutely fine. It's just that initial wiggle that needs to be done. So I thought, well, why not try to fix it? So it should hopefully be an easy fix because the HDMI port is working. There's just obviously some sort of bad connection in it. So we're going to take apart the TV, see what the problem is, and then hopefully fix it. So let's get this TV down on the floor. Okay, so the TV is off the stand now, and obviously we have it unplugged from the power supply because you're dealing with mains voltage here, and that is enough to easily kill you. In fact, it says here, caution, to prevent electric shock, do not remove cover, for qualified personnel only. If you don't know what you're doing, do not do this yourself, and do not copy what you see in this video because I do not know if it is safe or not. Because even when it's unplugged, high voltages can still remain in the TV capacitors themselves. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if this trick works, but I'm just going to turn it on and off a few times just to try and drain any power that's in there. Again, with your remote control, you can turn it on just to see if there is anything left in the TV. But like I just stressed, that is not a guarantee that it will get rid of the mains voltage, but I'm hoping just to be concentrating here and not going near where the mains goes into it. Right, okay, so if you have a look at the HDMI now, you can see it's number 2 that's faulty. And you can actually see if you wobble number 1, it's not doing anything. But if you wobble number 2, you can see that the outer bit is very loose. The inner bit doesn't appear to be moving much. It just seems to be the outer bit. So the inner bit is moving a little bit, but it seems to be more the outer cable. So if you have a look here, when you plug the cable in, you can see there really is a lot of movement on it. And on this one here, there doesn't appear to be as much movement. If you actually look at the metal itself, you see it's the plug moving in the socket, while with this one, it's the actual socket that's moving. So we're going to undo all the screws and take the back cover off. Right, I've got an old dust sheet on the floor here just to protect the rug that's underneath it. Lovely feather duster here, and as I go along I can give everything a nice clean. Now the reason I'm not using a hoover is because I heard that hoovers can actually cause damage because they can have a build up of static, so I'm hoping with this there's going to be less chance of having static. All the screws appear to be exactly the same, so it doesn't matter what order they go back in. Right, there we go. I'm going to put this to one side. So I'm going to be working here, and I want to keep away from this board here. This is where the mains electricity goes in, and you can see it gets transformed down to a lower voltage. So I'm just going to keep my hands over this bit here. Right, I can see what's wrong. It's around the other side, so let me show you. If you have a look here, can you see on this one here? I'll just focus in. Right, if you look down the bottom there, can you see where that little point goes through the circuit board? It's loose. So on this one, it's been soldered here. You can see just there, down at the bottom here, just where my fingernail is. But on this one here, it's loose. So I'm going to take this board out, and then hopefully I can just put a blob of solder on the other side, and I'm hoping it will be okay, because the rest of it looks to be okay. First of all, I thought it might be the plastic that was broken around it, but it doesn't appear to be. All that looks, the plastic seems to be in place. It's just this metal thing which is not. So take the board out, put a blob of solder on the other side, and that might be as simple as that. Now to take this out, we've just got to screw here, here in the corners. Let me zoom out a bit. And that corner there and that corner there. I'm not sure if there's any others, but we'll undo them and see what's happening. Also, I'm going to have to undo these connectors here, that ribbon cable type thing there, And I'm wondering if, do you know what, I might get away with not undoing everything, because if I can just flip the board over, I only need to put a blob of solder there. So I'm going to loosen up the screws and see how much slack I've got. I might be able to just spin the board over and do the job nice and easy. Right, I think to be safe I am going to undo it, because then it means I don't have to actually do the soldering right here. So I'm just going to see how all of these come undone. Oh, nice and easy. If you have a look at this one here, I just need to pinch, push down this bit here. So pinch and push down. Yeah, and I'm presuming that I won't get these mixed up. Let me just see if it's possible to put them in the wrong one. Sometimes they make it where you can only put them in the right one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so with these, okay, that one fits there, but that one's up the top there, so I shouldn't get them mixed up, because they're just going to be laid out like so, so I know where to put them back on. Now let's have a look how this thing comes undone. Okay, so it looks like there's two little pinch things here, so I'm presuming I just have to pinch these and work it out like so. And lastly, not sure about this top one. Right, for me, I think it's just going to be easier just to unplug it from here, because on this power board, or whatever it's called on this side, I can see that there's a little tab over this side here. So if you have a look here, you can see that there's just a little tab there. And I'm going to be careful not to put my fingers on anything else. I'm just going to ease that out. There we go. So now I can work on this safely without worry about damaging anything else. So what I want to do is, I want to be soldering this one. It looks like this one here on the other side here looks to be about here. So I presume I'm going to have to unsolder this bit here and then resolder it. And I'm hoping once I unsolder this, I'm hoping that I'll see that little prong that sticks through, and then I'll be able to make a good connection again. Right, okay. I'm going to take this into the kitchen, I think, to make it easier for me. So I've just put a bit of a towel down on the kitchen floor, and what I'm going to use is I'm going to try and use this desoldering wick. So the idea of this is just, it's like a copper braid, and when you put it onto a bit of solder and heat it up with your soldering iron, the solder should seep into here. It should act like a wick and wick the solder away. So then hopefully you will end up with a lump of silver solder on here rather than on your circuit board. So I'm just going to try that now and then apply a little bit of fresh solder to it. Try to put fresh blobs on top of it. Hopefully it might all melt in. Right, okay, let's see if there's any a bit better. Yeah, that is. Check that out. Look at that now. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy with it, it's not wobbling now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some epoxy glue, you know, the two-part stuff, and I'm going to mix some up, and I'm just going to put a little dot on each of the sides, and then hopefully that might make it last longer. See, the problem is that the TV's only got two HDMI ports, so often there is a lot of swapping out going on, which is a bit silly because I've got plenty of HDMI switches. It's just sometimes easier if you're in a rush just to swap the cables about, and it's the constant pulling in and pulling out that does damage these ports. Right, let me mix up some glue. The good thing about this glue is when it goes off it does get very hard. It's a very strong glue. Right, so I'm going to put a dollop on each of the corners, and hopefully it will help it stay connected. Stay away from that side there because that's got all the pins on it. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there for a good 5 or 10 minutes. So while I'm waiting for that glue to go off, I'm now going to get the duster out and give the TV a good clean. So it's been about 10 minutes now, but it's still tacky. It might be because it's not actually gluing two pieces together as such. I've just kind of smeared it around the place. So I'm going to probably have to leave this a good half an hour or so before it goes off, but you can see it's all around here. Now I'm hoping, I should have really checked beforehand, but I'm hoping epoxy glue doesn't do anything to like you know, copper or contacts or solder. I presume it doesn't, because otherwise I'm going to be a bit stuffed, because as you can see it's gone everywhere. But basically that is it there, so I'm quite happy with it. It's these three here. See, this is the good one here, and these were the three that I did. So I don't want to wobble it too much yet, because obviously the glue's still going off. But if you look, it definitely, it's not wobbling at all now. It feels just like the one above. So let me leave that for a good half an hour. Okay, I've left it a good while now. It's still a little bit tacky, but we're almost there. So I'm going to put the board back in. And just to show you the strength of it, if you look at the good one there, you can see, not wobbling. And the bad one, again, not wobbling. Remember, that's the board that's wobbling. So as long as it works, I think this will have fixed it. So we're going to place this board back now. So I'm going to do up the screws to begin with, and then I'm going to do all the connections up. These just all clip in nice and easy. Now with this one, I presume I have to pinch it again to get it in. There we go. Okay, that's in. And this one, nice and carefully, I'm just going to push down. Right, so that looks like it's done. So now we just have to put the cover back on and do our testing. Now I've given it all a good clean. There was plenty of dust and dirt that came off it. This was a new duster when I first started sweeping it. Make sure you don't trap any of the wires. This has to go back in. Right, now I could just test it here, but it's going to be just as easy for me just to put it back on the stand and then put all the cables in, because I'm quite confident that it is going to work. So now if you have a look in here, you can see it's nice and secure now. So this was the faulty one here, and now can you see it's not wobbling anymore. So it's just like number one. So it should be good. Okay, so the Xbox is on, so let's have the moment of truth. Let's turn on the TV. HDMI 2, so it's on the correct channel. Let's see if it will go straight to it. Yeah, there you go. Fantastic. So that is now working. So let's turn it off, and then turn it off at the back. So we're off now. Right, okay, so that's the TV turned off, so now we're going to turn it back on. Remember, the Xbox is still on, so let's see if it will do it now. This TV takes quite a while to come on. There we go. Excellent. Right, okay, so now we're going to go to a different source, to TV.
Off we go.
Right, so that's now working, and now go down to HDMI 2.
209.
Perfect. And now just to double check, I'm just going to go to HDMI 1 because we were mucking about with that as well. Well, I weren't mucking about with that, but you know, they're on the same sort of tracks. And let me just turn on the set-top box. There we go, wake it up. So that's working as well. So hopefully now that has fixed it. Initial testing looks like it's going to be absolutely fine. So it's been a long time since I've had it like that, where I haven't had to wiggle it before it starts working. There we go, perfect. So as you can see, quite an easy fix. Obviously it's a bit of upheaval getting a heavy TV down, taking the back off and stuff, but then when it comes to the actual fix itself, it wasn't that hard. So hopefully this will keep on working for the distant future anyway. And while I was waiting for the glue to dry, I actually went online to see if you can use epoxy, which was a little bit late because I'd already used it by then, but luckily, yes, you can use it. According to the websites I looked at, people use it for things like waterproofing their radio control cars, you know, the electronic components on the inside, they encase it in epoxy to keep the water out. So luckily, it looks like it will be okay. So this is the second part of the video, and we're going to be fitting a new screen to the Nintendo 2DS. So I brought this from eBay and it had a faulty bottom screen. You can just make out the damage there. So I ordered one up and it should have been, I think it was £17 something, but it actually had 20% off. So it ended up only costing, I think it was £13 or £14, around that sort of price. So I'm hoping when it goes in, it will look good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to compare it to a proper Nintendo 2DS screen at the end, and also then, because this was like bought second hand, I'm then going to go onto the eShop and I'm going to see if there's any way of re-downloading any of the games that was on it originally. So I'm just going to be fast forwarding through the actual putting back together because it's going to be quite time consuming, and then I'm going to show you it working at the end. Okay, so I just had to solder this shield back on because when I took it apart originally, this thing fell out. Really, even when I was just trying to take it apart, it just fell straight out. So I think it must have been dropped in the past. But that's on there now. Just had to solder each of the corners. So that's it all put back together now, so I just need to put this rear cover on and then hopefully it will be okay. Right, now if you remember from when I took this apart, I thought that one of the batteries was slightly bulging, the one that was in it originally, so I'm going to be using another one that I got out of a broken 2DS XL. This one has got a bit of sticky tape on it, so I'm just going to take that off just in case it makes it hard to take out again in the future. I find a good way of getting rid of the stickiness is if you just use the existing tape, and then if you just kind of do this, it tends to stick to the tape rather than the actual thing that it's stuck to. Right, and I also bought a little stylus as well, a third-party one. Oh, they're really not as nice as the original. They're really not as nice as the original ones. Let's have a look at the original. Yeah, You get what you pay for. I don't know what I paid for these, 3 of these for $1.99 or something, but if you have a look you can see that the original's got little grooves on it. Not that it really makes a difference, it's just the original one just fits much better. Look at that, clips in nice and clean, while this one just hangs out a bit. Oh well, never mind. Right, okay, let's turn it on and see if the screen and everything is now working. Hopefully I haven't damaged anything else. Yay, look at that. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick check on everything, make sure that the camera, front camera, back cameras, all that works, sound does work. And then what we'll do is we'll compare it to this screen, which is the original Nintendo screen, and then I'm going to see if there's any way of going into the eShop and seeing if I can re-download the games that were already on it, if there were any games on this. I'm not sure if there was or there wasn't. On the home screen it looks absolutely the same. If anything, this screen looks better, but that's just probably because of the colours. So let me actually go into the game. So there we go, as you can see, both of them there, and to me I can't tell any difference between them. So this is the Nintendo one, and this is the cheaper eBay third-party one. If anything, this one looks brighter, but that could be because the white DS overall looks brighter than the black one. I don't think there's any difference between them, and it functions exactly the same from the little bit of testing that I've done so far. I don't have to press anything harder on it or anything like that. Seems to look just as good. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect this one to the internet, and I'm going to see if there's any re-downloadable games on it. Okay, so after looking really closely at this screen, I can actually see a slight imperfection on the bottom screen that you're not going to get if it was an actual Nintendo screen. So if you have a look, you can only see, you can't really see it in the games, it's only maybe when the game's loading up and you have a pure white bright screen. What it is there's a little line here, just around this area here, that is slightly brighter than the rest. Now, it doesn't affect gameplay at all, but if I was to really zoom in there, can you see? Just to the left off the end there, there's an ever so slight line. Just it's like it's just a few brighter pixels along this line down here. So let's just go into something now, for example this. See when it comes up again, when you get the white screen. Right, okay, there you go. That little imperfection there. Yeah. So it's absolutely tiny, but your eye is drawn to it ever so slightly. But luckily, you normally use the upper screen in games anyway, but if you have a look, it is definitely there. So there is going to be a difference between the third-party screens and the original Nintendo screens. The quality is not going to quite be up to scratch, but to me, I'll happily get another one of them, and I think it looks absolutely perfect. You have to look really closely to find that imperfection, but just bear that in mind when you go for the cheaper screens, that there might well be imperfections on it. Luckily it's on the bottom one. If it was on the top one, your eye might start to kind of be drawn to it once you notice it. We're in the eShop, so what we need to do is you need to go to the very left hand side of this. If you want to watch a longer video on it, there is another YouTuber called Tom the English Picker, and he did a long video on this. But basically you just need to go over to the very left hand side where it says Settings Other, tap that, and then you need to go down to where it says Re-downloadable software, tap that. Unfortunately, okay, there isn't anything to re-download. I did this on one of my broken 2DS XLs and there was software to download, but in this instance here there's nothing. So now with this one here, I might as well wipe it completely clean from the previous owner, because there's of no benefit. There's no games on here anyway. So what I need to do is I need to go to Settings, I'm going to go to Other Settings, and I'm going to go to Format System Memory. This will delete all downloaded software and save data. Software saved to an SD card will no longer be usable. Some data such as photos, blah blah blah, will not be deleted. If you wish to delete your Nintendo eShop account, you can do this by selecting Delete Account in Nintendo eShop. Right, and there we go, we're back to the beginning again, and then if you want to get rid of, like it said, the Nintendo eShop account, then you can delete that via the eShop settings. So there we go, that's the video done, fixing the TV and also fixing the Nintendo 2DS as well. So hopefully you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Please subscribe for more fix-it videos and also more how-to videos as well. Thanks a lot for watching, take care, bye now.